week 2 of our Vibe series. It's all about our emotions, and it's all about anger. So I have an irritating thing I found out about Gwinnett County drivers that I've shared. For us drivers in the room tonight, make sure you hit the gas the complete second the green is hit. Anyone else have anything to share about annoying driving, road rage? Anybody have privilege yet of being on 85? 85, a little bit. Have we ever done 75? All right, here's my favorite in Georgia, I-16. All the way to Augusta. Yeah, you can hear it. Yeah, that's my favorite. What about hallway rage tonight? For those non-drivers, hallway rage, you go, what is that? You've had an interesting encounter with someone in the hallway. You bumped into them. They've dropped your books for you. You wanted to slug them. Let's be honest, guys. We guess our go-to default mode, punch someone. It's like they want to square of our brain. When in doubt, swing. Maybe. We're going to talk about this. Yes, that kind of rage. When we think about anger, you may think, well, hey, I don't have a problem because I don't fly off the handle on someone, or I'm not going to lose it on someone. But if we kind of go down this path tonight, we're going to figure out that true anger and the fact that anger can and does control us more than we're willing to admit. Because it isn't just about the times that we flip out, because maybe we can control that. We talked about it last week where we check that emotion to make sure our coach doesn't see it or our parents don't see it just in time. But what about those that give each other, this is my favorite, and Shannon's not here, but I'll go ahead and tell it on being recorded, so I'm telling on myself. Who's very good at giving their family members or someone they're angry at the silent treatment? Silent treatment, people? Okay, let me give you a clue from a 34-year-old man tonight. Half the time when you're giving them the silent treatment, they have no idea you're giving it to them. Just going to throw it out there. So this idea that you are controlling the situation or that you're mad and not going to share it to someone and you're stewing there in your emotions and you're kind of the person like me maybe, it's like a tea kettle that just needs to warm up a little bit before they steam over. They don't even know anything's wrong. So there's your emotions getting the best of you. I told them myself. Why? Because I do that quite more than I'm willing to admit this afternoon and evening. So there's that. Anger, does it control you? Does it not? What we'll talk about in our examples tonight is two different people, which I found very interesting that we get a perspective from the ultimate example, of course, which we did last week, so we'll go back to Jesus and actually a piece of what is going on with him. We're actually going to talk about someone that wasn't, or at least part of some verses, someone that wasn't on board with Jesus' ministry while he was here. But eventually became a church leader and wrote my favorite New Testament letter, a little 5-chapter in your English Bible letter known as the book of James. James was the half-brother of Jesus, not a fan, not documented to be following, only followed after Jesus proved he was who he says he was after the resurrection. But it's in Acts chapter 15 that we see James standing with Peter and standing with Paul at that famous council where they started to talk and piece together what was going to be in your canon, which becomes your Bible, and who the gospel was really going to be for. Was it just written to the Jews? Was it just a Jewish story? Or was us, praise the Lord tonight, Gentiles, a part of God's grand narrative? Spoiler alert, you were there, it's written for you, you're here tonight, still studying something that was pieced together by these guys. Here's what James is going to tell you. If you don't think perhaps that you might have a problem with anger, because I'm going to vote tonight on the more aggressive side and say that from time to time, all of us in this room have more to do with anger and let anger control us than we're willing to admit. Because we've got to get past, and this is what James is going to argue for us, we got to get past the fact that our anger and when it wells up inside of us isn't just what we're responsible for, or what is all going wrong around us. Which, once again, since I'm going to take myself, I'm going to tell myself that's what I get in trouble for. Anyone ever get annoyed by the fact that people don't act the way you think they should? Be honest in the room. Yes. They don't vote the way you wanted them to. They don't drive the way you want them to. They don't attend certain things you want them to. They don't give you what you want, correct? Because if we talked about last week, and we're going to continue down this road with emotions for a few weeks, we'll take a break next week and come back. It's all about control. And if we want to control our emotions, therefore we actually want to control other people's emotions. We want them to respond the way we want them to. Or we want them to behave a certain way. And therefore, when we react to their lack of doing that, we've lost the battle when it comes to anger. Because you're frustrated, you're mad, you're giving them the silent treatment that they don't know they're getting. Or they know they're getting the silent treatment and love it, like my sister growing up. If I gave her the silent treatment, it was like a win-win. It could go that way for months. James chapter 3. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. It says even more complicated than the fact that we have to admit that our anger is just about not just how we flip off the handle sometimes, or we respond to other people when they effectively made us mad by not behaving in a certain way, and we've lost the battle with anger. What about all these things that we should be angry about? There's good news. Certain groups of people are treated unfairly, causes that we care about that are not taken seriously, racism. You see that thrown up. That was all 2020. People who don't have clean water, people who don't take care of the planet, and those causes that you should be angry about. Good news. When Jesus saw God's temple and God's sanctuary being turned into a marketplace, he turned over tables. You're talking about Jesus, like humble, we think sheep and, like a laid back, chill hippie dude. Jesus flipped over tables and chased people. Go look it up, I'm not lying. With a whip out of the sanctuary, out of God's house. That happened in the gospel. More than one account of that. Jesus is not saying we don't have a right to have a righteous anger towards the things that we should, towards abortion, towards racism, towards this idea of true gender equality. However, how often do we let something that's such a good thing well up to where we divide ourselves, and therefore we've lost this battle? We might hear the word wise. Who is wise and understanding among you? And we kind of think about the fact that wise is a little bit different than smart. So if you're wise, you can be book smart and you can be street smart. You've probably heard of that before. But if you're truly wise when it comes to anger, the wise move is to choose humility. It's actually the wise move is to not have a situation that can truly control you one way or the other. And that's hard. Let's be honest, that's really hard. There's a coach out there, there's a sibling out there, there's a friend out there. They know how to push your buttons. The wise move, the humble move, is to get to a point of your life that you choose wisdom, you choose humility, you choose to the fact that no matter what the external factors are, you're not going to lose it over someone behaving in a way that you can't control them. Because here's your spoiler alert. You can't control them. You're not going to be able to manipulate them. You're not going to take a magic wand make them do exactly what you want to do. And if you don't believe me, for those of you in the room tonight, check your sibling relationship. How often do they do what you want them to do? Act like you want them to act. Say what you want them to say. Forget your parents. Let's throw your parents out of the window for just a second. Just about your siblings. Just your siblings. How often do they not react the way that you think they should? Right? When we go to our siblings, that's like a big pressure point, and I'm poking on a button here. That can make you lose it, perhaps, more than any other time, right? There's more good news. James chapter 4. Here's what I got to get you to this point to realize that it's actually we're more part of the problem than we are the solution first. Wise people are humble. They don't see themselves as the exception to the rule. They don't think the world revolves around you and your desires. I have a sister-in-law like that. You don't think you deserve better treatment than everyone else. You don't see everyone else as means to an end that you want. Now, I told a little bit of a story on me. I'll tell one on my mom. My mom's got a fun way of doing things. Anyone knows people that don't take no for an answer? They just flat out won't. Like you tell them no, they're going to go find someone else to give them an answer. They will not say no for an answer. My mom, love her to death, she might watch this, she may not later, is that kind of person. She made me go to Hollywood Studios personnel, Mickey security people, and ask why we didn't get Rise of the Resistance tickets because we didn't get in line on our app, in 3 seconds as opposed to 10 seconds kind of thing. You know those people that won't take notice and they go figure out someone to give them the kind of answer. Whether you realize it or not, that's a form of you losing it when it comes to anger and your emotions. You will not take no for an answer, so you keep pressing the button and the issue. Perhaps a no in 2021, in the world we live in, is the best thing you can hear from time to time. I know that's kind of harsh. You get rules thrown at you all the time. But have you thought about the fact that perhaps a no from time to time is good for you? It's good for you. James chapter 4. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. James is going to argue for us to say that we're part of the problem. As long as we think the problem is outside of us and the way that people are treating us or reacting or not reacting the way that we want them to, ultimately, if we would take a step back and see, it'll take care of itself. If you want to get to the root of your frustration and your anger, you need to be willing to admit that sometimes the problem is simply within us. We didn't get the answer we wanted. They didn't behave the way we wanted them to. The problem is when we don't get what we think we deserve. So here's another spoiler alert for American Christianity. We feel, as a culture, way more entitled to things than we deserve. And I'll say that as guilty as everyone else in the room tonight. You think about it. Think about it. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you. You just passed your citizenship quiz for tonight. That's all you're going to get. That's all you owe, or you're owed as even a citizen of where you live. And if you've watched the news for the last 2 years and watched people battle over money that may or may not be yours, you can truly start to pick up on a little bit of things about how much people actually may or may not really care about you up on Capitol Hill. I just want to leave that there. As long as you're looking to other people as the reason for feeling the way you do, other people are the ones who are controlling your anger and your emotions tonight. So my quiz or question for you, who are you looking at? Are you blaming it and looking it to other people? Or are you looking at yourself? And to tell on myself again, I am just as guilty of this. This hit really hard this week. even today, about this idea of letting little things control us. What am I not getting that's causing my anger? Because when we think about the ultimate example, this is what Paul wrote about Jesus, who being in very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used in his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. I think when we forget about this whole idea of where was Jesus at the beginning and knowing that he's Jesus Christ, the God-man coming into our existence as a baby and growing up. Can you imagine God walking around and dealing with us on a daily basis, and how much frustration we probably cause someone that was that perfect? Can you imagine him dealing with his brothers and sisters? He automatically would have known that they're lying to him. You ever catch someone in a lie, you know they're lying to you, you smile at them? Think about it. You control the situation for a little bit. We kind of like it, if we're honest. Jesus would have had that nature. He's constantly choosing not to take up that nature. You've got God in flesh walking around humble as a servant. What's causing your anger tonight? Because here's the deal. Following the example of Jesus is how we keep that control over our emotions. Jesus becomes the reason why anger doesn't have to be the boss of us. Let me give you another spoiler alert tonight, because I'm full of them. People are constantly going to frustrate you, let you down in this life. Do things opposite of what you think they will. Good people in moments are going to let you down, stumble, fall, walk away, etc., etc. Jesus promises not to do that. In your personal circumstances, what would it look like for you to choose wisdom and humility to where you got a grasp tonight on anger and quit letting anger take a grasp of you? In the moments where you're going to flare up, in those frustrating moments, what would it look like for you to walk away? Truly walk away for a little while. What would it look like for you to be the bigger person, to go to your room, to take the no in the moment for your good? What would it look like for you to quit letting others control you when it comes to this aspect of anger? Because if I was to guess, most of us fall in that category where we're controlled by anger more about what's going on around us than our blow-up moments. Because we already see those. Those are fun. They make good YouTube videos where someone loses it, kind of thing, like last week. A lady rams the car several times. You've checked that one down, but have you checked the other one down? All the circumstances of life controlling your anger, frustrating you, letting you go off the handle over things that are happening around. You have a choice. You have a choice. James tells us to choose humility, to choose wisdom. Paul backs it up tonight to say that's exactly what Jesus did when he was here. We have a choice about what we do with this frustration, emotion that truly leads to anger. You're often more frustrated than you ever are angry. And if you don't check that frustration long before it gets to that point, it will lead to the sin anger, not a righteous anger. Let me pray for you.